Okay,
There you
perfect.
go.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the AMP Global Youth Career Chat. My name is Hiba, and I'm going to be the moderator for today. I'm so excited to be here with Isabel. And we really organize these chats to strengthen our alumni community, connect people from different parts of AMP's network, and highlight the inspiring journey of civic professionals. So we're going to start off with a brief introduction of our speaker, and then we'll get right into the conversation. If you're watching online, then you can definitely post your questions, and we'll try to leave time for them at the end. So it is my pleasure to welcome Isabel, and I'll hand it over to you to briefly introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Isabel Argati. I am one of the board members for AMP Global Youth, so super excited to be connecting with you all. For my profession, I am a program manager for a career mentoring program for a nonprofit. So I'm based in Maryland, the United States, and we help first generation to college students, mainly low income, get to and through college. And so recently we built out a program for career mentoring virtually, actually, especially because of the pandemic, but it's lended itself nicely to just the programmatics. And so that's what I do kind of for my day job. But I'm originally from Ecuador, South America, and then I kind of grew up most of my life in Maryland, US. I went to the University of Virginia, which is not too far from me. And I recently finished the certificate program this past summer with Georgetown. So a lot going on. I kind of bounced around. I studied architecture at University of Virginia, so different from what I do now. But I think that's the fun part when I get to talk about this, kind of how I switched on that.
That's super amazing. Thank you for sharing. And our first question is, how did you discover what you're passionate about doing, and how did you really narrow down your interests and find your path?
Yeah, so I think I knew I was a creative person very early on. I was that little kid that ran around with, coloring books and wanted to draw stuff all the time. And actually, my family owned a construction business growing up. They did construction in the area. And so I was like, cool, I can be an architect. That was my first kind of instinct of what I thought I wanted to do. And so I went to art school in high school. I did like an art academy, and then I started applying to architecture schools, and that's what I did in college. But in that, I realized I had a lot more passions for other things. I started joining a bunch of different clubs around women's issues, actually started a mentoring program in Charlottesville, Virginia, took a bunch of different elective classes outside of my major. For me, I thought it was just a break from architecture world and software. But to my surprise, that's actually how I found my passions within education and community work. And so it was a mix. I want to say it was a mix of elective courses and stuff I was doing in the community, which I didn't really expect. By the time I was a senior in college, I realized, you know what, like architecture may not be for me anymore. And that was kind of a weird moment because I was like, wait, I dedicated all this time to this profession. And you're kind of like when you're a student, you think, what you decide in those early years is what you're going to do for the rest of your life. And so I kind of had to have a reflective moment of, how do I spin my skill set to be, what I actually want to do? I don't want to do architecture. I don't, maybe want to do that forever, even if I start out maybe in that. But how can I build experience in other areas? And so I was still involved in a lot of youth programs, and I kind of took that creative training and creative background from architecture with like a lot of design and software to do a lot of like marketing and PR. And so I kind of spun it in that way to do it for organizations that I really enjoyed. I also took a class called Books Behind Bars, which worked with the local juvenile system, mentoring basically kind of facilitating conversations around different literature with inmates. There were also teenagers in the system, and I really enjoyed that connection. I realized I want to be involved in the community in this way. I have a lot of different skill sets, and I think architecture school really trained me to be an analytical thinker and quick on my feet because it's just very project heavy. And so, yeah, I think once I graduated, I was applying to stuff anywhere, but really around communications, PR, but in different types of systems and institutions. And so I actually had my first internship after I graduated, and that's why I ended up in Colorado with the Park Service, the National Park Service here in the U.S., managing communications and outreach for youth programs from their Denver office. And so it was kind of big scale, but it was a way for me to tap into kind of that creative communication, social media side, but still kind of making an impact in a youth community setting. And so I kind of just started there and spun off of it. And it was kind of one of those leaps of like, I'm going to try it, see where it takes me. And it was probably the best decision I made. So yeah, I think that's a good start.
Well, and how you were still in the architecture. It's always a little bit overwhelming and scary to, change your path, but then you find something that you're more passionate about, and then it can take you in a completely different journey. So I'm sure a lot of students can also relate to that. So what is the biggest misconception about your career field?
So now that I'm in education and nonprofit, I feel like the nonprofit world is very underestimated. I think naturally, especially for young leaders, and just from the pressure, I think when you go to college, you need to have like a job after you graduate. Like there's a lot of pressure to make it. And I definitely felt that, especially being the first in my family to go to college and actually like get a bachelor's degree. It was like, you need to have a profession. And oftentimes those professions where you don't need to be a lawyer, you need to be a doctor, you need to be something like, very solid. And the nonprofit world is not like that. You wear many different hats. You do a lot of different work. It's not, your job title can only mean so much when you're on the ground doing a million different things. And I think we get underestimated, we being like the industry get underestimated of the amount of work we do, but also the leadership opportunities. I've been in both kind of government and now nonprofit, and I realized that the opportunities at the nonprofit are a lot more, there's so many more. And also as a way to grow as a leader, I think it gives you the playing field to just test a lot of things. And oftentimes the nonprofit, organizations are the ones doing a lot of the heavy lifting in our community, the ones doing all the work, the grassroots organizations. And I think we've seen that a lot more in the past couple of years, especially with politics and social justice, where people are starting to question these bigger systems. And, going back to their communities and like, well, organizing, what are you doing? How can I get involved? Because, I'm starting to question everything else. And so now I see it coming up a lot more. People want to kind of give back and get involved in those ways. But I think it's definitely kind of like the underdog, but I kind of love that energy and I love that spirit because it's a lot of work, but it's very meaningful work. And I think that's pretty cool. And so, people I think out of college and just students in general don't go to nonprofit necessarily for like a job or an internship, but that's oftentimes the best experiences. I think we get caught up on titles and big company names and like finance industries and Fortune 500, and that's great. That's amazing opportunities, but don't underestimate your local community organizations because they're doing amazing work too, and you might be able to have more connections and opportunities than you thought you would. So yeah.
Yeah, that's super awesome. I loved how you worded that and said that it's definitely not recognized as much, but the work is so powerful. And then do you have any tips for students who are just getting started? What should they do or keep in mind?
Ooh, getting started with like their careers or like college careers?
Yeah, we can start college, grad school, just even high school students.
Yeah, so much. I would say take the risk. If you're looking for, I had a job in high school. I was a lifeguard. And for me, it was just like, I'm just doing it for the money. I want to have like my own, paycheck and start buying stuff. But I grew up swimming. And so that skill set naturally lended itself to, okay, I can be a lifeguard and get paid for it. But through that job, I learned a lot of just people skills, leadership. I was taking trainings with adults and that was a new environment for me. And so it definitely broke me my shell in a few different ways. And so I would definitely say take advantage of those opportunities. It's kind of scary of like, okay, I have to go to work, I have to give up my weekends and go to work. But, it makes you mature a little bit. And I think you can't underestimate opportunities, even if maybe you think it's not the perfect fit. If it's coming your way, I think it's for a reason, right? And you're going to make the most out of it. And if you do take on that internship or part-time job, excel in the best way you can. Find your strengths, connect with people, ask questions, because you never know what that might lead down the road. It might lead to a promotion, or it might lead to, next summer you're getting promoted into a different role, and people remember you. And so I would say don't get so scared by titles. I think especially after you graduate college, those titles can be scary when it says, you need X amount of years of experience, and you kind of underestimate all the things you did do in college. Like if you ran a million clubs and you did, organizing, that's experience, that's skill set. And I think it doesn't have to be like a solid paying job for you to say you had that experience. Oftentimes it's the stuff you're doing at your schools and at your communities that teaches you those leadership communication skills. And so don't underestimate yourself and take the risk, apply. The worst that can happen is they say no. So if you're kind of in that job search or internship search, apply and just see what happens. Talk to people, have them review your resume. This is an amazing community you can tap into for that type of stuff, and see what happens.
Yeah, those are really great tips. And I'm going to remember that quote of just take the risk. It's so powerful. And then for your final question, if you could redo your entire educational and career journey, would you do anything differently?
Ooh, I want to say no, because I'm happy where I am. But if I had to, I want to say I would have explored earlier. I think I went to college on such a set mindset of, I want to do architecture. I want to do this program. And it wasn't that it was a bad program. I just realized I had so many different passions. Like I wanted to do something a little bit different. And so I wish I would have kind of talked to more people about what they were doing, maybe connected with alumni a little bit more in my institution, and figured that out for myself. Maybe I could have done a minor that I didn't know about, or taken an internship earlier on instead of waiting till I graduated. And so I think maybe that would have opened up a little, just more understanding, maybe a few more doors for me. But I think I needed to kind of go through that journey at that time and at that space to kind of figure out where I wanted to be. So yeah, if I had to, maybe just connecting with people a little bit earlier, just to broaden my horizons. And I think that's because I was the first in my family to go to college. It wasn't like I could talk to my parents and say, hey, like, what do you think about this? It was, my professors, other adults in my life, that I kind of had to reach out to and figure out. So yeah, but not too many regrets.
Definitely. And that's great advice for our viewers too, just to make sure to take those opportunities and take the risk and put themselves out there. Yeah, so thank you very much for that answer and all your incredible insights. I want to leave some time for question and answers from the audience. So I'll just wait to see if we get any. But while I wait for them to come in, I would love to know just what are some of your favorite positions that you've been in and why?
Ooh. So I still do a lot of community work too. And so I want to say actually that internship that I took with the Park Service is probably one of my favorites. It wasn't like a high position. I was an intern. I mean, I was just starting out. But it was such a new space to me. One, with the work I was doing, but then two, just I had moved like halfway across the country. I'm from Maryland. And so I moved to Colorado and I was like, okay, I'm going to be out on my own for the first time. Like for real, for real. I mean, I did it in college, but that far away from my family was different. But I had incredible experience that I did not expect, like just to go to a bunch of different parks, different offices, and understand a new community. There's a heavy Native community there that I just don't have here in Maryland. And so just talking to different types of people, different cultures, like it was beautiful. And so aside from just the work that I was doing, and great supervisors that really pushed me to attend different conferences and talk to different people and do new things. I think that just experience of being on my own and kind of growing up was really great. And I think the work that I was doing kind of gave me a different perspective of like, these are the millions of things that can go on in an agency that I didn't really think about. It was the regional office, but there were so many different roles that I was like, wow, like you could be anything. You can do finance, you can do admin, you can do even architecture, like you can do design, everything, was in that agency. And I didn't realize that when I was younger. Now, currently, I serve for the Commission for Women at my county, and I've really loved it. It's been a huge growing leadership experience for me, connecting with amazing women that I serve alongside, and a lot more local. I think I've done stuff at the college level and kind of spread out, but this was like right at home, like where I grew up in my backyard. And I think that's been very meaningful. And it's something I volunteer for. It's not something, I'm doing day to day for my job, but I think it's been a really great experience of just connecting with local leaders, understanding the programs and resources that we have here and kind of being an advocate for that. It's really empowered me to, tell people about it, like, connect people to the right resources, access to the right things. And that's been really great for me.
That's super awesome. And then we actually did have a question come in. So you're involved in so many different things. How are you able to practice self-care?
Ooh, yes, that's big. I have had to learn to just pause. And it's funny you say this because my friends and family will probably tell you the same thing. Like, are we so busy? Always running around? Like, well, how do you make time for stuff? I really value my alone time. And that can be very little of like, I'm going to go for a walk and I'm going to listen to a podcast, or I'm going to go, I still swim now. And so just being in that kind of like literally you're cutting off from your phone, you're cutting off, like, you can't have like headphones on in the pool. And so just kind of being in the zen has been really great. And just exercise, I think that's been, especially during the pandemic, I kind of got on a better routine of like, okay, let me intentionally go for a walk. Let me intentionally even do just like a yoga video. And also staying rooted in my faith, whatever that means to you, that could be a meditation, it could be prayer, it could be, whatever that, I guess like guiding principle is for you. And I think I really found that over the past couple of years of just for my own like morals and values of like kind of going back to that and having a much stronger faith. And that's been very helpful. Just, okay, things may go wrong, things may not go the best, but not getting so bugged out the way I feel like I could have been. So definitely, I want to say alone time is the most important. And it's kind of funny to say after the pandemic, when maybe a lot of us have been alone. But I mean that like in an intentional, like with yourself, right? Like not just sitting there doing nothing, but like, journaling, making art, like kind of having that reflective piece for yourself. And doing it for yourself, like what makes you feel good, and do that. Sometimes that could be with a friend or someone, but if it's, something you want to do on your own, like that's important because you make yourself happy and keep yourself motivated.
Those are some really great tips. And I'll just end with this question. What is the fulfilling part of your job?
The most fulfilling?
Yes.
So because I work with the kind of the college student side of our program. I think, I don't know if I said this, but I was a student in this program myself. So I was one of these high school students that went through this program at CDI. And so it's been really great to kind of see students have this guidance that I wish I would have had, and then kind of just grow in their careers. So it's always exciting to see for the mentoring piece, having a professional connect with one of our students and just seeing amazing things about them. Like, hey, like, this person was amazing to connect with. I'm so excited to help them in whatever their journey is. And then for the students to just feel a lot more empowered. I think that's been the biggest thing, especially for young people these past couple of years of, how do I just find understanding and empowerment in what I'm doing, and just making sure that like I'm on the right track. And that's usually what I tell mentors, like you just have to give them a little pep talk. These students, all of you like are doing amazing things. And I think you don't stop and realize of like, this is what I've accomplished and this is the amazing things that I'm doing. And so having kind of someone just be your cheerleader on the side and underscoring that has been huge. And so kind of seeing that turnaround of students of like, yeah, I talked to someone, I connected with someone, and now I realize that I want to major in this, or I realize I do want to apply to this program, or like I've got that scholarship. I think those small successes are very empowering. And just opening doors for them, even if it's just awareness. Maybe it's not a full job, but maybe it's, oh, at least I know about these opportunities and I know about this pathway now. And so I feel like that's kind of been my role of just kind of being a connector between either people and, professional network, but also opportunities. And I love being that for people. I love just being in the know and kind of connecting people to, hey, I thought of you, so apply to this or check this out. Like, I want to connect you with this person. I think it'd be really great for you. And I don't think enough people are doing that for each other. So yeah, I love being kind of that connecting piece of connecting puzzle pieces, I guess you could say.
Super awesome. I love that. I think, so many people forget how important it is. So many of like the opportunities I've been a part of is through connections, and it makes such a difference. So I love that you're doing that work. So thank you so much for your incredible insight and everything you shared. And thank you to our audience who are watching and participating. We hope you enjoyed today's session and were able to gain inspiration in your own journey. We'll be back soon with another career chat. So thank you all, and I hope you all have a great evening. Thank you so much, Isabel.
Thank you.